Are you ready for this overdue follow-up video? So there's actually a really good reason on why this video has been delayed, and you have to stay tuned to find out. So today, we're going to be doing the 8 months follow-up review of the KitchenKnives.id 240mm Gyuto. If you haven't already, please consider supporting the channel by hitting that like and subscribe button. Now, quick disclaimer, I paid for this knife 100% with my own money, and I have zero affiliations with KitchenKnives.id, so that way you guys know this review and feedback is 100% my own and honest. If you have not seen the initial video, you can check it out right here where we go through a lot of the specs and the initial testing of this knife. So there are a few things we want to touch on today. It is the usability, the comfort of the knife, the edge retention, the maintenance, and the sharpenability of this knife. This is the new and improved KitchenKnives.id 240mm Gyuto. So in the original video, many of you guys have voiced that you had issues trying to get in contact with KitchenKnives.id. So I decided that I'm going to try to resell these knives, and I have a couple of these in stock to try to help the issue. Now, these knives in particular are a little different in comparison to the ones you can get directly from KitchenKnives.id and the ones sold from other distributors, because all these knives that I have in stock are made completely to my own personal specs. I'm going to do a separate video highlighting the improvements of the KitchenKnives.id 2.0 and how you can get one of these from me. And comment down below to tell me whether or not you're excited for this KitchenKnives.id 2.0, because this thing is pretty sweet. So let's jump straight into usability. This is actually my very first 240mm Gyuto. Before this knife, I've always used an 8-inch, 8.5-inch chef knife and switched on and off with a 7-inch Santoku here and there. And before this knife, I wasn't really sold on the 240mm Gyuto because I hear so many people go, once you go 240, you'll never go back. And I never really understood until now. And once I started using a 240, there are just some tasks that are so much easier with a larger knife. Now, being a pretty big meat eater myself, I break down large portions of protein very often. Big pork butts, big pork shoulders, large cuts of chuck roasts, large cuts of roasts, things like that. And for the past 6 to 8 months, I reached for this knife. This is my main knife to break down all of those big portions of protein because it's just so much easier to do, and this thing is an absolute workhorse. With most carbon steel knives, as you guys know, it will develop a patina, and I gotta tell you, this knife developed a pretty nice patina over the time that I've used it in the past 8 months, and I really like the patina on it. Like, it's very natural looking. It's got this almost rainbowish blue hue to it, and I don't mind it at all. I know some of you guys don't like patinas on knives, so you might want to maybe polish it up with some flits or some kind of metal polish to bring back that really shininess. But I really like this patina that's on here because the patina also kind of protects the knife from rusting and reacting to a lot of different ingredients. So after using this knife for the past 8 months, I would definitely prefer this knife to be a little bit taller. And that's why when I placed my order with KitchenKnives.id for the ones that I carry, all of my knives, or at least all of my Gyutos, the 240s, are at least 50mm tall. Along the lines of usability, let's talk comfort of this knife. This knife is actually really comfortable in the hands. If you guys are not familiar with Wa-style handle knives, Wa-style handle knives are a little bit more forward heavy or forward balanced in comparison to your Western handle knives, because Western handle has more material in the back and a little bit handle heavier. Being a user that have used Western handles a majority of my life, it took very little time to get used to this knife, and I gotta tell you, after using this knife for a while, I'm starting to prefer the more forward heavy knife, and I really am liking the Wa-style handles. Now, one of the features that I really like about this knife is that there is a lot of neck area, or a lot of neck room on this knife, and both the spine and the choil are rounded off. And this extra neck room actually allows you to choke up on the knife quite a bit with your pinch grip, and both because the choil and the spine are rounded, the pinch grip is very comfortable on this knife. And I know for Japanese style Y handle knives, most of the time that the choil and the spine are not rounded off because the pinch grip is just not very common in Japan. But this will be a perfect knife for you guys to kind of integrate from a Western knife, or if you do like to use a pinch grip, that this knife is very comfortable in the hands for a pinch grip. Next, let's talk about maintenance and edge retention. So after 6 to 8 months of use, regular usage, breaking down many pieces of meat, The maintenance that I need on this knife was mostly using a raw leather strap. I actually prefer using a raw leather strap for this particular knife in comparison to a honing steel. I'm not sure if it's because of the edge geometry, or maybe there's some slight convexing that I like using the strap better. I felt that it brought the edge back a little bit better in comparison to a honing steel. But after a solid 6 to 8 months of use, this knife can definitely use a fresh sharpening. Not that this knife doesn't have a usable edge right now. It's still a very usable edge, but it's just lost that really crispy sharpness that came straight out of the box. This edge retention of this particular knife in comparison to other steels, I would say the edge retention of this knife is very comparable to a well heat treated German steel or Oz 8 steel. So kitchenknives.id have all these knives advertised as 60 to 62 Rockwell hardness. After 6 to 8 months of solid use, I'd be comfortable to say that this knife is pretty close to 60 Rockwell hardness. Probably not up to like 62, but from the feel of this knife, it is pretty close to 60 because it feels very similar to the other knives that I have in that 60 to 61 range. But of course, this is just all based off of feel. The only true way to test the Rockwell hardness is with the Rockwell scale, which I don't have, so I'm just totally going off of feel. Now, let's go ahead and show you where this edge is at after 8 months and how well this knife is going to sharpen. So I'm listening to you guys. I know you guys want some more sharpening videos, so I'm going to sharpen this knife and see how well this knife takes an edge. First things first, let's go ahead and show this edge off after a fresh strop. This is where the edge is at after 8 months of solid usage. So as you guys can see, the knife is still very sharp, okay? I'm going to see whether or not this will pass a standing paper cut test right now. I don't think it would, or it will, but we will see. Like I said, the knife, the edge is still very usable. It's just not as sharp and aggressive as when it was freshly out of the box. As you guys can see, the edge is still pretty sharp on here. It passed the standing paper cut test. But we will see how well this knife takes on a new edge. This is going to be my sharpening setup for today. I usually sharpen with a homemade bridge over the sink, but for those of you guys who don't like sharpening over a sink, you like sharpening on the table or things like that, here is a really down and dirty, really cheap way to set up a sharpening pond, which, as you guys know, some sharpening ponds are ridiculously expensive. I know some are like $100, or like some are like $80 or something crazy like that, okay? I don't have the money to spend on like an $80 sharpening pond. So what you see here, okay, is a cabinet liner, a non-slip cabinet liner. This is like the more premium version, which is a little bit thicker, which I found to work a little bit better. And a cookie sheet. A cookie sheet is just like a sharpening pond, okay? It just holds the water in. It doesn't allow the water to spill everywhere. That's the whole purpose of a sharpening pond, right? So you put the non-slip mat underneath your cookie sheet, and you can see this thing does not move. What I have here is a stone holder, which has non-slip grip at the bottom of it. And as you guys can see, this is very secure in here. The stone that I'm going to be using today is a Cyrex 1000 in comparison to what I used before, which is the King 1000. I found that I upgraded to a Cyrex 1K a little while ago, and I find that it cuts a lot faster, and I actually prefer the Cyrex 1K because the finish that comes off of it is a little bit nicer. It's a little bit more polished and refined in comparison to the King 1K. I'll be reviewing a lot more stones here in the future. If you guys are interested in that kind of content, definitely comment down below to let me know and what kind of stones you guys want to see. There are, 𝐂𝐶𝐍 stones that I want to review. There are Japanese knife import stones that I want to review. If there are other stones that you guys want to review, just let me know. I have used the sharp pebble, like the cheap sharp pebble stones before from Amazon, and not a big fan of those. Definitely, if I have to pick on a budget stone, will be the King 1K or like the King 800, which I have. I haven't really used the King 800 yet as much. I'm still getting into it, but anyway, long story short, 𝐒𝐿𝐹 1K is what we're going to be using today. This has been soaked for 15 minutes or so until the air bubbles don't come out. The stone is starting to get a little dry. I have a water bottle here. This is just water. First thing I'm going to do is use this Nagura stone. Kind of clean off any residue from the back. And I'm not any kind of sharpening expert here. I'm just some novice that like knives. I'm just a knife nerd, probably like most of you guys. So if you guys see my technique is not correct, or you see there are improvements that I can make, definitely comment down below. I'm always looking to get better at sharpening, because I think that's one thing that we're always working towards. And I don't know if you guys can see there's residue on here. As you guys can see, it is removing material very quickly. Like I said, the 𝐒𝐿𝐹 1K removes material much faster in comparison to like the King 1K. One more pass. I'm starting to feel a slight burr come on. Honestly, I probably don't even need to develop a full burr on this, given that how clean this edge is, as you guys can see. So one thing I do notice about this 𝐒𝐿𝐹 stone in comparison to the 1K is that this thing soaks up a lot of water. Like, it drinks a lot of water in comparison to the King 1K. Now, one thing I didn't learn before is the pressure of sharpening is another thing that you guys will want to pay a lot of attention to. And this is, of course, from beginner to beginner. I am a very big beginner sharpener. And one thing that I have noticed when I'm sharpening, at least previously, is that I never learned the true like the amount of pressure that I use while sharpening. And you don't want to use too much pressure, okay? There are a couple articles that are great talking about the amount of pressure that you should be using while sharpening. Which I wish I knew when I first started. Okay, so the knife is now sharpened. The edge on it feels pretty nice. I don't feel much of a burr left, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick strop to clean it up a little bit. So I'm just going to leave it at that 1K finish. What I found with the 𝐒𝐔𝐏𝐏 1K is that the finish on it actually comes off pretty clean, and in comparison to the King 1K, it's just a much nicer finish that it comes off. It looks like it's coming off of like at least like a 2K stone. And if you create a slurry with the Nagura stone that it comes with, and you go really light strokes, you can even get a higher polish out of the 1K stone if you just do really light strokes. So right here I just have a piece of raw leather, no compound. Just trying to clean up the edge just a little bit. And I'll get a close-up angle of this edge so you guys can kind of see the finish on the 𝐒𝐶𝐏 1K. Yeah, this feels really nice right now. I don't have much arm hair. Being Chinese, we don't have much arm hair at all, but it's definitely shaving sharp right now. Cut test. Back to a standing paper cut test, and then we can do another couple slices. The knife so far, after sharpening for the very first time, the knife sharpens very easily. Takes a very clean edge from what I can feel right now. Yeah, that feels so nice. Like in comparison to the factory edge, this edge feels nice. Like it's nice. Like the 𝐒𝐶𝐏 1K is such a nice stone, and I see why so many people swear by it. I'm really wanting to check out 𝐒𝐿 2K, or not 2K, 𝐒𝐿 800 and 𝐒𝐿 3K. I hear a lot of people talk about those two, as you guys can see. Okay, hold on. As you guys can see, that edge is so clean. Look at that. So yeah, it takes on a very nice edge, very easy to sharpen. The knife was fairly easy to maintain throughout the time that I had it, so as you guys can see. Alright, as you guys can see, the knife sharpens really easily. It's very easy to... So as you guys can see, the knife sharpens very easily. It takes on a very nice edge, even at a 1K level. It's a very usable edge. And this is actually my first time doing a sharpening session inside my 6 months follow-up video. So if that's something that you guys want to continue to see, I think it might be beneficial to show how well the knife sharpens, how, you know, because I hear a lot of people say some knives are more difficult to sharpen than others, and whether or not the knife can take on a good edge after sharpening is more important. So comment down below, let me know what you guys think of that, and I can include the sharpening portion of it in my future videos. And this wraps up our 6 months or 8 months follow-up review of the kitchenknives.id 240mm Gyuto, and it gets a thumbs up from me. And definitely stay tuned for the kitchenknives.id 2.0 video, and also comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about me trying to resell this knife, because sometimes I'm a little hesitant to try to resell knives to people because I feel like you guys might think I will try to just sell you the knife without a honest opinion on it because I'm trying to sell the knife, right? So yeah, so I was pretty hesitant on trying to order those knives and try to resell it just to kind of help out the logistics of it because ordering from Indonesia is not very fun. I'll be honest with you. The weight is what kills me because we're so spoiled with Amazon Prime, right? That we're just like, if it doesn't get here in 2 days, it's late. It's not true. The rest of the world is not like that. It's just the impatient Amazon Primers that really loves the 2-day shipping. So anyway, I hope you guys like the video. If you guys do like the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It will mean the world to me. It help me support all of this madness. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.